Hello, it's Liz. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking about my favorite makeup brushes. As a disclaimer, I have to tell you that most of the brushes that I'm going to be talking about today are towards the pricier and high-end category, as I think that they are going to last longer and I do like to invest in those tools. If you're interested to see what I like to use to apply my makeup with, just keep on watching. I'm going to go in the order of how I apply my makeup. So I always do my eyes first. So I'm going to be talking about the eye brushes. The first brush that I like to use to apply the all over lid shade is this brush from Hakuhodo. This is the J5533 brush. So it's like a fluffy, like rounded brush, and it has a lot of give. So I think that's the reason why it applies the base color really evenly on the eyelid without making it look creased or like cakey. I'm not sure if you have that problem, but that's what happened to me when I use like a flat shader brush to apply the all over lid shade. It just makes like my eyelid look really cakey and heavy for some reason. I don't know if it's because of the brush or it's because I have really dry like eyelids. Yeah, but after I started using this, I've never had that problem again. So I think this brush just works really well for that. And what I use to apply the creased shade is this brush from Obsessive Compulsive Cosmetics. This is their tapered blending brush, I believe, and it's made from synthetic fibers and it's surprisingly very soft. It's never shed on me. I've had this for maybe over 2 or 3 years already and it's still going strong. But what makes me sad is that I wanted to purchase this for backups, but I went to look for it on its website and on other websites that sells this brand, and I cannot find it anywhere. So I think they might have discontinued this. If they really did, then I'm so sad, because if I ever lose this, I'm going to cry, really. This is my most favorite crease brush ever. It just picks up like the perfect amount of color and just distributes it on the crease really perfectly without making it look too like pigmented, you know, because sometimes I use like a gold hair brush and it just picks up too much product and it's very hard to blend out, but that is not the case with this brush. That's why I love it to death. As for the main lid shade, I like to use a dense brush like this from MAC. This is 239 brush and it's like a dome shape and it's quite flat, but it's very dense. So it does pick up a lot of color and it just applies it on the lid perfectly. I think it's also the perfect size for my eye shape as well. I also have this type of brushes from other brands, but they're not as good compared to this one because most of them are just thinner and not as dense, so they do pick up less color. That's the reason why I like this one so much, even though it's not so soft, but I haven't found anything as good as this one, so this is my favorite for the moment. And as for blending, this is the best one, hands down. This is the Hakuhodo J5533 brush, and it's the best brush to use to blend out like the colors on the crease areas, also to clean up the areas like when you make a mess around your like with your eyeshadows. Yeah, this is just the best one to use, and it's also very soft. Maybe you can see that it looks exactly the same as the MAC 217 brush, but it is much softer in comparison, and it's also cheaper as well, I believe. It's made of all gold hair and that's the reason why it's so soft, I think. Yeah, so it just blends out the colors really well and it just does the job so perfectly. So if you're looking for a blending brush, I totally recommend this one. And as for the last eye brush that I'm going to be mentioning today is actually not an eye brush. It's an eyebrow brush and it's from Sephora. This is the Pro Brow Comb and it's like double-sided. This side is like synthetic fibers. You can use this to comb out like the brown hairs, which I don't use. I only use this side. This is like a metal comb. And I just use this to separate my eyelashes after I apply mascaras because they can get clumpy sometimes. So I just use this to separate them. But I do have to be quite careful while I use this since it's made of metal and it's very sharp. but it's so good. Now the only tool that I like to use to apply my foundation is actually not a makeup brush, but it's a beauty blender. And this one is the pure version and it's the only one that I like. I've tried the pink one and the black one and I find that the texture is different than this one, and this one is much smoother and it just applies the product really smoothly onto the face. And it actually works with all cream products, not only just foundation. I've tried using this with like cream blushes and bronzers and contours before and it just works so well. It just distributes the product and blends it out really flawlessly. Comparing to like a makeup brush, I find that when I use a makeup brush to apply my foundation, it just looks streaky and cakey for some reason. So I'm not a fan of makeup brushes with flat foundation. This is the only tool I like to use. And as for concealer, I do like to use a small brush like this. This is the Louise LY26. And this is great for applying like the concealer onto the specific areas. And it's just like made of synthetic fibers and it's pointed, so it works well with like small areas that you want to conceal. I'm someone who doesn't have like a lot of big scars or discolorations or anything that I need to use like a big brush to apply my concealer with. This just works fine for me. And after that, I would just prefer to go in with another brush to press in the concealer onto the skin. So what I use is this brush from Zoeva. This is the concealer buffer brush. And I just press like the concealer into my skin like this. And it just makes the concealer blend in with my foundation really well. It doesn't move the product around at all. And since it's made of synthetic fibers and it's very dense, so I think that's why it just works so well with cream products like concealers. And it's also very easy to clean and it's very fast to dry as well. And yeah, it's just one of my most favorite brushes. I actually have maybe 3 or 4 of these to rotate while I wash my brush, so that's how much I like this brush. And what I like to use to set my under eye concealer is this brush from Hakuhodo. This is the G5539 brush. And it's just like a tapered brush. I think it's the perfect size to apply like the powder under the eye areas. So what I like to do is I just take like some powders onto the brush and then I just press it under the eye areas and it just sets the concealer in place all day. Yeah, it works so well for that and it's the perfect size. It's also very soft, so it doesn't poke me at all. Yeah, so it's just very good. Since I have dry skin, I don't normally like to put on a lot of powder on my face after I apply foundation. What I like to do is just, I would use like a puff that comes with a loose powder and I just press it on the skin on the areas that I want to reduce the shine. But on the days that I want some more coverage, I would go in with powder foundation. And the tool that I like to use to apply it is this brush from Bobbi Brown. It's the full coverage brush. And it's like rounded domed brush and it's very dense. So it does pick up a lot of product. So I just like to swirl this onto the powder and just swirl it on my skin and it just gives the most flawless finish. And I think it's also the perfect size to travel with as well. Yeah, like because the handle is not too long, so it's just like perfect. Yes, and it just works really well to apply your powder onto the face. It's advertised to be used with foundation, I think, but that's not what I use it with. I only use it strictly with powder and it works so great for that. And now, some days I like to use a finishing powder just to set my face as a last step. So what I use is this brush from Real Techniques. This is the blush brush. Obviously, I don't use this to apply my blush as I find it's way too big for that. So I think it's perfect for applying the finishing powder all over the face since it's made of synthetic fibers, so it has a lot of give and it's also very soft and it's just the perfect size like to use with my Guerlain Meteorite. So I just swirl this into the pot, and then I just swirl the powder like all over the face, and it just gives the most flawless finish. Yes, so this is actually the first Real Techniques brush I got, and I was really impressed. For the price, it has really good quality. Yes, so if you still haven't tried Real Techniques brush, I would recommend this one as your first one. And now as for contours, I do like to use an angle brush to apply my contour powder, and what I've been loving are these two Hakuhodo brushes. This one is the J511 and this is the G511. They're exactly the same, just different hairs. This one is all goat hair, and the G511 is a mix of squirrel hair and goat hair. So the G511 is actually more natural. By that I mean it picks up less pigment and it applies the color onto your face more naturally. But this one does pick up a lot of pigment, so on the days that I want my contour to look more natural, I would go in with this one, the G511. And I do find that they have the perfect size and shape to fit like the contours of my face. Like right here, when I apply my contours under the cheekbones, it's just so perfect. Yeah, and they are so great for contours. Yes, I cannot recommend them enough. And as for bronzers, I'm not a heavy bronzer fan. I only apply like a little bit on my forehead and on top of my cheeks, just to warm up my skin a little bit. So what I like to use is this brush from Hakuhodo. It's the G512 brush. So I think this is exactly the same as the G511 and the J511, just slightly bigger. As this is a mix of squirrel and goat hair, it does pick up a good amount of color, not too pigmented, and it just applies like the product onto the face like really nicely, and it's very soft as well. So yeah, and it's also the perfect size for that. Yeah, I just love this so much for applying bronzers. You can never go like over the top if you use this brush. It's just really good. And now as for blushes, I do have two brushes that I like to use. The first one is also from Hakuhodo. This is the B505 brush, and it's also a mix of the squirrel and goat hair. And this one is like a tapered flat brush, but it's very dense, so it does pick up quite a lot of product. But the good thing about this is, since it's very dense, it's also very good for blending out the color as well. So what I like to do is just I apply the cheek color on my cheekbones, and if the color is too strong, I would just like flip the other side and just blend it out, and it's just looks so flawless. Yeah, so it's quite versatile actually, so I think it's totally worth it. This one is actually quite pricey, but it's totally worth the price. Yes. And now the other one that I like is from Tom Ford. This is the Chic brush number 6, and it's more like a dome rounded brush, and it's very dense, and this is made from all goat hair, I think. So it does pick up a lot of color. So I think this works great for less pigmented blushes. And this one is also great for blending as well. I think this is like the softest brush I own, because no matter which way I just press it on my skin, it never pokes me. It's just so soft and so luxurious. If you want to try a Tom Ford brush and you don't want to buy like the whole collection, you just want to try one, I totally recommend this one, because I think it's the perfect size. You know, you can use this for like applying your blush or your powder or bronzer. It's very versatile. Yeah, so if you want to buy just one Tom Ford brush, make it this one. And now we're almost done. We're going to move on to a blending brush. The only brush that I like to use to blend out my colors on the face is this brush from Hakuhodo. This is the J210, and it's like a rounded brush. It's very dense and it's very, very soft. So what I like to use this with is just like blend out my contours and cheek colors when it's too strong, you know, and it just does the job so perfectly. I love it to death. I have maybe 4 of these at home, and I just rotate them. when I need to wash like my brushes. Yeah, it's just so good. And it's advertised as a blush brush, but I don't see how I can use this as a blush brush since it's very dense. Maybe if you like your blush to be strong and pigmented, then this is probably the perfect brush for you. But as for me, for blending, it's just so perfect. Now, as for highlights, I have 3 brushes to share with you. The first 2 are also from Hakuhodo again, and this one is the J5521, while this one is the B5521. And these are exactly the same as the contour brushes. This one is the mix of squirrel and goat hair, while this one is pure goat hair. And this one is perfect for less pigmented highlights as it does pick up more pigment, while this one is suited for strong highlights. Like if I'm going to use like a Becca highlight, I would go for this one. I tend to go for these shapes for highlights. It's just, yeah, so works so perfectly to put on like the highlights onto the cheekbones and the nose bridge. Yes, and like the Cupid's bow. Yeah, I think they work so well with that. They are both very good and I just use them interchangeably. The last one is the setting brush from Real Techniques. It's like a flat, tapered brush. This is actually the one that I like to use to travel with because since it's made from synthetic fibers, I'm not afraid to just travel with it, you know, and it's also very affordable. If I ever lose it or it becomes damaged, I can just go out and buy a new one. Yes, but other than that, it's just, yeah, it just works so great as well. Like it's just the perfect size to apply highlights, yeah, on those areas that I mentioned before as well. Yeah, I don't have much to say about it. It's just a really good brush. And now that completes this video. What brushes do you like to use to apply your makeup? Please let me know in the comments below. I would like to know. If it's something that I haven't tried before, I would love to go out and try it. So please share it in the comments box below. And yeah, that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please hit the like button and subscribe, and I will see you soon in the next video. Bye!